Hey everybody, how are you? Man, I hope things are going well in your world. Today we're going to focus on the coupe to fastback parts circumstances. What we're going through right now with parts, what does that parts market look like? Is it better? Is it worse? Can we still do it? Is it still feasible? We're going to cover all that today in this short, incredibly awesome video. So man, I'm glad you guys are here with me today. We are going to, like I said, we're going to walk through this parts market a little bit. I'm going to be doing a lot of work over the next little bit to the Born Again Mustang. I did release a video just a week or so ago giving you some updates on some stuff that we've been working on. I'm fixing to run brakes. I've still got a pile of parts up here. For the first time in the Born Again Mustang's life, I have more parts than I have time to install. Usually I'm waiting on parts, and so they got ahead of me. I was hunting during this season, so I've really had a good time with that. So let's talk about the current parts market. Let's start with, is it still feasible to convert a coupe to a fastback? And I would say absolutely, for sure. Let me give you a few things, though, that have changed that I think is kind of worth looking at. First is this, is that coupes, are they still available at the price point that we saw them even a couple of years ago when I first made my first video? And I would say absolutely that they are. There's some that are more expensive. I mean, Mustangs have gone up across the board in price. That's not a bad thing, and here's why. Mustangs going up in price is going to add more value to the car that you're building. So just know that you know, when you get done, you're going to have more value in it. It doesn't help you out, though, when you're trying to build it. So you're going to have to be kind of savvy. You're going to be savvy about that. So the current coupe market, what would I buy if I was going to buy a coupe? If I was starting at ground zero and I was going to convert a coupe Mustang to a fastback Mustang, first of all, you got to figure out what generation you want. Do you want that first generation, that 64 through 66? Do you want a 67 or 68? Or do you want a 69 or a 70 model Mustang to convert? And the big nose Mustangs up there in that 71 through 73, they're probably not worth converting. I would just buy the fastback. You really can't have those. That was my car that I drove in high school, was a 71 model Mustang. I had at one time a 351 Cleveland in it, a 4-barrel 351 Cleveland that we had done a bunch of work to. Had a C6 in it at one point, had a top loader 4-speed in it at another point. One of my favorite cars of all times. I know people are kind of weird about the big nose Mustang, but I love that thing. It was a blast to drive, and it was an incredible car. So anyway, but they're not worth converting. You can get a fastback still pretty reasonable in that group. And I would say the 69 and 70s, it's on the line. It's marginal whether it would be worthwhile to convert those. I would definitely say 67 and 68 for sure. That is probably your most lucrative year models to convert. First of all, I'll show you the parts pieces here in a minute, but the parts are better priced, and there's some options with parts like the DIY weld yourself quarter door assemblies, which make that car much less expensive than the other cars to convert. And in the end, a fastback in that 67 or 68 model range is worth more. Not withholding the 64 through 66, because I would say they're worthwhile too. And you can get a very, very reasonably priced 66 model coupe, and you can do the same thing for 67 and 68. So those coupes are available. What would I look for in a coupe? I've done a video on this. I'm going to put a link in the description. That video is still applicable. Some of the numbers might be off. I'm going to completely remake that video this year, so it'll be completely updated, but that video is really good. I have already done a what to look for in a coupe if you're going to make the conversion. I've made a complete list for that. I'm going to give you a link in the description. You go to Gumroad and you download it. You're going to want that list before you buy a coupe. It's going to give you step by step what to look for. That still applies today. I'm going to talk to you everything from torque boxes to floor braces. What do they need to look like? Is the floors rusted out? Is that a no-go or go? Shock tower issues. Everything that you want to know about that car before you buy it, I'm going to help you know what that is. I have made a list for that, and there is a video for that. Both links will be in the description of this video. I'm going to highly recommend you watch the video, you download the list before you buy a coupe. And if you already have a coupe, I would watch the video and download the list anyway, because it's going to give you a checklist to look for things you need to think about. Because the conversion itself replaces a lot of parts on the car that if they're bad, it's not bad for you, it's good. If say the rear quarters are caved in, yet it didn't, move the inner fender wells and stuff in or something like that, or didn't really move, bend the whole car where it's like, you're gonna have to put it in some kind of, frame straightener deal. But if they're just caved in, or let's say there's some rust in the rear quarters, or let's say the top, a tree fell on it and the top's just caved in, but it didn't ruin the A and B pillars. Those kind of things are not no-goes. They're actually good for you because it makes the car cheaper. You can buy a cheaper coupe and you're going to be replacing those parts anyway. So it's to your benefit, So anyway, what would I be looking for in a coupe generally? I'm going to say if I were going to buy a coupe today, I would look in that $2,500 to $5,000 range. What would really be cool is if somebody's already taken it apart for you and they started to work on it and it's been in their carport and their wife finally said, that's it, you got to get this stinking car out of our house, and maybe they've put floor pans in it, maybe they've put some floor supports in it, maybe they replaced the torque box, whatever. Those are great cars to have. If you can't find that, I would say a suitable coupe that's in the $2,500 to $5,000 range. Two things to think about, which, like I say, there's a whole video about this and you really ought to watch that, and there's a whole list for you to go by. Most complete car that you can have, that's one of the things you want. The most complete car means that even the parts you're not going to use, if they're good, you can sell them, and then the best condition that it can be in. The better the condition of the car for the money, the better off you are. I had somebody recently reach out to me and say, I found a coupe. It's like $16,000, but it is pristine, and I want to buy it to convert to a fastback. I would say that's a bad idea. That'd be great if you just wanted the coupe, and it's that nice, and it's at that price point. But once you have that much invested in the coupe in the beginning, this conversion is so invasive that whatever you gained by having a car with nice paint and all this other stuff, you're going to ruin all that stuff. And by the time you get finished, you'll have so much in it. I almost think you probably could have bought a VIN fastback, VIN number fastback for the price. Remember, the coupe to fastback conversion has two major benefits that you want to keep in mind. Number one, it's less expensive than a VIN number fastback. That's one. Number two, it provides you a better built car than a factory fastback because you're putting parts on it that were better than they were from the factory. You're going to be doing some work to it. You can do some resto mod work to it. And it's a car that you can drive. It's not something you got to keep in the garage. Here's our museum piece. Come and look at my baby. And you polish on it every Saturday when you pull it out onto the driveway and you pull it back up in there. This is a car you could drive daily. So that's the benefit. So let's talk a little bit about, because I told you I was going to go quick in this video, let's talk a little bit about the price market for a second. I have done some work for you. And I have gone in and I've done some from reputable companies, some companies that I trust, and I'm looking at their pricing for the kit. Some of these companies put together a kit for the fastback conversion. Just doing a quick search, I'm going to give you two companies that both are reputable companies. I think they do a pretty good job. The first one is Kentucky Mustang, and I looked up their kit for the 64 through 66 Mustang, and they have that kit at $6,799.95. So $6,800 for the kit. That includes, it includes a parts list of parts, and I'm going to recommend that you download my parts list from Gumroad so that you know exactly what parts that you need, and I'll talk more about that. But that's pretty much everything you need for the sheet metal portion of your car to go from a coupe to a fastback. For a 64 through 66, it's $6,800 from Kentucky Mustang plus shipping. We'll talk about that. 67 or 68 model Mustang, they've got it for $6,499, so $6,500 plus shipping. Includes all the sheet metal parts that you're going to need to convert your 67 or 68 coupe Mustang to a fastback. Stangaholics. Carrie over at Stangaholics, super nice lady. She is really, really a super kind person, works with you as best you can. These guys are on the up and up. Anytime I've ever talked to them, they'll shoot you the straight scoop. They'll talk about parts and pricing and stuff like that. They're really, really amazing people. Stangaholics, for the 64 through 66, they have that same kit for the exact same price as Kentucky Mustang. It's the same. I'm going to say this on the front end. It's more expensive to convert a 64.5 through 66 model coupe to a fastback Mustang. It's more expensive to do it than it is a 67 or a 68. They have the 67-68 kit for $62.99 plus shipping. Now remember, shipping's going to cost you some money, and we'll talk about shipping in just a second. But I want to stop for a second, and I want to tell you about one other company, and that's CJ Pony Cars. I know there's a lot of people that love to gripe about CJ Pony Cars. That's just because they sell a lot of parts. CJ's has, from everybody that I've talked to, I worked out a deal with Wall Socket Garage for you guys to be able to buy parts with them. They discounted it the most that they possibly could, but in the end, the shipping was so expensive because they don't do enough volume that it was still cheaper to buy it somewhere else. And so a lot of you guys bought your parts from somewhere else. Let me point out, I'm not sponsored by anybody that I'm talking about. I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is me talking to you. I'm a I'm converting coupes to fastbacks, so I'm not sponsored by these parts people at all. But what I will say is CJ's tends to have the best shipping, and that makes a really big difference in these parts. And so if I'm you, I call Kentucky Mustang, I call Stangaholics, and I call CJ's. I have them put me together a complete parts list, you know, for the parts that you need. Kentucky Mustang and Stangaholics make it easy. They have a kit that has all the parts in it. They've already got it priced. CJ's doesn't have that. So for CJ's, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go, and I'll put a link in the description, to my Gumroad platform, and you're going to need to download the parts list with Dynacorn parts numbers. You're going to need to download that from there. That'll give you a complete list of everything that you're going to need, including pictures, diagrams, insider tips, for you to be able to convert your 67, 68 Mustang to a fastback. I would take that list and I would go to CJ's and I would pick those parts out, and I would talk to them. I would put that in a package, have them put the shipping on it, and see what that cost. Before I bought, I would look at those parts prices plus shipping from Kentucky, Stangaholics, and CJ's, and see where the best price is. You need to have the shipping connected to it. Here's why. Shipping can be the game changer in these parts. And if they don't have, what I found is CJ's often has the parts in stock when none of the others do. The good part about that is they can give you an affirmative number for shipping. Sometimes with Stangaholics, they're ordering directly from Dynacorn. The parts aren't in yet. They're going to be shipping from Dynacorn. Sometimes they want to break it into two parts. And so what happens is you pay shipping twice. You're going to pay shipping for one group of parts and then shipping for another group of parts. And to be honest with you, in the end, you can pay twice as much for shipping. And shipping on this particular items, because they're so big, it's sheet metal for your car. It's a roof, it's quarters, it's the quarter door assemblies and everything. Shipping's probably going to be $1,000. So you got to think about that. And if they said we're going to ship it in two, and now the shipping's $1,500 or $1,700 or $2,000, now your parts got really, really pricey. If they can't give you that affirmative shipping, that this is how much it's going to be, then I'd shop around. I really would, because that can really cost you a whole bunch of money. So for the companies that offer the kit, that they've already put the parts together and they're giving you a package price, Stangaholics seems to be the best price. Theirs is for the 67, 68 Mustang, $6,299 or $6,300 versus Kentucky Mustang is $6,500. Now, because CJ's does not put theirs in a package, you'd have to go through there and individually order the parts that you need. I don't know what their pricing is. Historically, CJ's is either on par with the cheapest ones or they're cheaper. And CJ's runs a lot of sales on parts. And if I'm you, I am going to definitely go to CJ's. I'm going to go to my Gumroad account. I'm going to download the parts list. I'm going to go to CJ's, and I'm probably going to order those parts individually from them, have them give me a price on all of them together, and then I could compare all these in relation to each other. Now let me give you one more insider tip, this is a big one for parts. If you're building a 67 or 68, this does not apply to any other year model. The quarter door frame assembly for a 67 and a 68 model Mustang comes in two forms, and I talk about this in my video, and it's also talked about in my parts list. There's pictures and everything. There's the DIY, the one you weld together. It seems scary. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. There's notches cut in every part and they fit together and you can weld it. So if you're welding this in general, this should not be a bigger step for you. So to give you an idea, one side, that quarter door assembly has gotten so expensive. The quarter door assembly for one side, and I'll show a picture of what the quarter door assembly is in this video. For one side from Kentucky Mustang is $1,883. Stangaholics is $1,900 for one side. Okay, so that means the quarter door assembly frame for one side of your car is almost $2,000. That's if it's already welded up, already ready to go, plus shipping. And shipping's more expensive because it's in a bigger box. If you buy, and by the way, if you buy it from CJ's, and again, I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is me just telling you the best way to get your car. If you buy that quarter door assembly from CJ's, that quarter door assembly is $1,200 if it's DIY. That's the one that you weld together yourself. You don't need to be afraid of it. It's got notches in it, and it's not hard at all to weld together. So that's $1,200. But I just went on CJ's website, and I looked in there. They've got it on sale right now. Those quarter door assemblies, they're on sale for $1,087. That's DIY. That's you welding it up yourself. So the difference is almost $800. Well, it is $800. So if you bought your parts, so if you said, hey, I'm really ready to build my coupe to fastback Mustang. If you buy your parts, if you go to CJ's, take my parts list, go to CJ's, order the parts that I've told you to order for the conversion. It's got Dynacorn part numbers on them. They'll have to convert that to CJ part numbers, but they'll do that for you. If you order those parts and you order the DIY, weld yourself quarter door assemblies, you're going to save right at $1,800 on the entire kit. So if you took $6,300, that means the whole kit is, not including tax, should be around $4,500 if my math is correct, which means that you go from paying $6,300, best price for the package, to $4,500 with all the things together, and it's shipped from CJ's, which historically has better pricing. That's cheaper. That price is cheaper than what I paid for mine when I first ordered the first kit. My first kit was probably 3 years ago for the 67, 68. I paid $5,700 for it back then. So it's $4,500 for that. My math's correct. Check my math. But if you ordered your parts using my parts list from CJ's and then you order the DIY weld them up quarter door assemblies, you're going to save a lot of money. So anyway, something to think about. Let me throw one quick thing at you before I get off here because I don't want this video to be too long. We are going to be, this summer, we're going to take the Mustang I called Susie. We're going to rename it. We're going to call it Lazarus because we're going to bring it in the shop. And in 24 hours, we're going to convert it from a coupe to a fastback. And we're going to show you in time lapse how to do that with some quickness. And so I'm hoping I can get the parts in by then. So probably in the summer, we're going to be doing that. It's going to be really cool. Anyway, go to the description. Get these parts lists, get these checklists, go back and watch some of these other videos. But this is where the parts market is. It looks like right now you could convert a fastback, a coupe to a fastback pretty cheap right this minute. So anyway, God bless you. Hope this helps you.